universally have named all of those. Thank the dear Lord. We have gotten that straightened out, so give me a follow along there. The Stansbury Show on your favorite social platform there. Your studio is also reachable. 330-450-7625. You can text that number throughout the program as well. And there's a toll-free option. You can call at 800-243-7625. Now, you'll need that number around 8:45. This morning because I got tickets to see Primus. And that show has Coheed and Cambria on it. I believe that is August the 5th. Yep, it's August 5th there. Blossom is where that show will be. Primus and Coheed and Cambria. I'll get you guys hooked up all week long. I'll have your first opportunity. He went to. There has been a fist fight that has broken out, and Cam's just kind of just grabbing dudes and kind of throwing dudes off of them. This feels very much like, people got a little too comfortable saying whatever they want on the internet. So I guess first what I'll ask Scott is, does he believe that the salary cap is in fact real? Or is it just something we talk about? And whether or not the raising of the ceiling of this salary cap, what does it mean for Nick Chubb, David Njoku, and Deshaun Watson all playing football together this year? Again, a couple of months ago, I was throwing it out there. I'm like, I don't want to see this happen, but guys, we've seen this a million times. You pay a quarterback money, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, we got to empty out some of these players. Now, the one thing I said when we hired Deshaun Watson there as well, if Deshaun will stop short of elite quarterback, but I think he can be a damn good quarterback. I absolutely still think there's a good football player in there, but what? Whether or not he's the kind of guy to rework his deal if he didn't have to help you? No. There, I don't see that in Deshaun Watson at all. I could be wrong. It's just purely speculation there. I just don't see that at him as a player or a person. He seems to be very much about the religion of me. Now, that's not uncommon in the world of sports. That happens all of the time. So we'll talk to Scott about all of that, and we'll do that coming up at 8 o'clock. Do want to talk to him a little bit about the Cavs as well. 7:30, we're going to get into kids on leashes. Another mom has gone viral for putting her kid on a leash. It seems crazy, and yes, there's low-hanging, easy jokes here that you can go get, but is it, in today's society, crazy to have your kids on a leash in a very crowded public place? It may not be. We'll get to that in the 7 o'clock hour also. It would almost be insane, and I mean insane, not to talk a little Shane Gillis, right? Shane Gillis hosted SNL the other night. He had used some what we'll call colorful language that used to be on that show all of the time. Routinely, it was on there. And now that he used it, it's front page news. It's kind of telling when you think about where we are in entertainment, where we are in what you can and cannot say. This is starting to get into the territory I was talking about a couple of years ago where I feel like it's darkest before dawn, and wait now. When we rotate out of this, can I say, should I say, should I not say, should I say, should I not say? When we rotate out of that, wait till you see what happens. And I think the first crack of that door opening was Saturday night with Shane Gillis on SNL. We'll get to that. We'll talk about him coming up at 7 o'clock this morning.
Here's what's next on the Stand Stansbury Show.
Okay, so something is about to, I think, massively change in college basketball, and maybe should after something we saw over the weekend. Let's get to that next on the Stansbury Show.
Like a wake and bake with an easy bake oven. The Stansbury Show on Rock 106.9.
If you listen to the show with any regularity, you know I'm a sports viewer. I'm into it. I like it. And as I age now, I'm picking up more sports. I think it's because scripted television right now, I don't think is in a... Here's what's weird about scripted TV. The stuff that's good is maybe the best we've ever seen. But there's a lot of filler. There's a lot of filler. It's a lot like the 80s music scene. People trash the 80s music scene. 80s music was amazing if you take just the stuff that was really good. If you start throwing everything in there, it's like, all right, there's a little bit of a different conversation. And sports kind of feels like it's filling the gap for scripted entertainment for me. So much so that I fell in love with another sport over the weekend. I went soccer crazy over the weekend. I watched 3 Premier League games. I watched an MLS game. And I watched 2 Bundesliga games. Like, that's crazy. Like, for me, like, out of nowhere. And now I'm excited. I think it's West Ham today and Brentford. The game's at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Love that. Now, part of the reason they were able to suck me in over the weekend is I wake up very early even on the weekend, right? I don't sleep in a whole lot. And even if I did, sleeping in's about 6. Like, that's like, oh my God, slept all day. Like, that's like sleeping all day for me, right? So I get up over the weekend. There's games on Saturday and Sunday morning at like 8:30 in the morning. I was like, this is amazing. Dude, pancakes and sports. I love this, right? Was all in on it. It kind of reminded me of West Coast football times. When I lived out on the West Coast, I love that. You watch both those early games and you still have all day to do whatever the hell it is you want. I mean, it was really amazing. So I'm kind of all in on the sports, right? And as I was watching the football or soccer, it's tough as a broadcaster, right? Because if you're a new fan and you start using the lingo, everybody's like, oh my God, look, you learned stuff. And then if you don't use the lingo, then the fans of the sport are like, oh my God, you idiot, you don't even know what it's called. Right? And so it's like, you kind of, you know what I mean? It's kind of tough as a broadcaster, but I'm all in on it now. I can't wait to get home and watch West Ham today. I cannot wait to watch that game. I'm all in. And I noticed as I was watching a little soccer that part of the reason that makes this game so great for people is the environment's amazing. Like, the fans are all in, the chanting, they're in unison, everybody's wearing the same thing. I mean, the fans, it really does seem as if home pitch advantage would be a little bit more, maybe even so than like an NBA arena, right? Something like that. And so, college sports, right? College sports is very much about the student. It's us versus you, and they're kind of into it. In college basketball, it's got some great environments. Kansas is a great environment. There's more than a few. So the other day, Wake Forest had been playing Duke. And there was apparently an upset. And so Wake Forest wins the game. 83-79. And they weren't supposed to win that game. So the fan base goes crazy. And one of the things that happens in college sports, much more than pro, is you run onto the court or run onto the field. And if I'm honest, I've never really understood it. Not to run out, or whatever it is, halves, whatever it is, right? You are not to run out on the field or court. And everybody kind of understands. Let's not do that. And yet, when the players are still out there, the game's over. Now, all of a sudden, player safety, we're throwing it out the window? It has always seemed a little crazy. But why did we accept it? Because it's a great TV moment. And that's why. It looks great on TV. It does. Oh my God, look at all the white shirts rushing the court. Looks amazing. Oh my God, they won. Oh my God, they won. And it builds fandom. It helps create some fandom. So now they're looking at whether or not we should be doing this anymore because a Duke star player, Kyle Filipowski, got hurt the other day after Wake Forest fans had run on the court. He, of course, after the game says he feels like it was intentional. People are on him about it, giving him the crying Jordan meme and all of this stuff. Well, of course he thinks it's personal. It was him that it happened to. And if you watch the video, and I'm sure by now a lot of you have, there's more than one angle out there. The overhead angle shows the fan who ran into him running by him, screaming in his face. So, like, that was intentional. That was definitely intentional. Well, I mean, guys playing just, talking trash, part of sports, can't handle it, can't take the heat, Stansbury. Get out the kitchen. Get out the kitchen. Well, neither one of us are in the goddamn kitchen. We're talking about players that are, 23? You know what I mean? Or whatever, however the old they are. They're young. You didn't play college basketball, neither did I. So neither one of us are in the kitchen. So can we stop with that? They were clearly jawing in his face. Now, I've said about taunting a player. Boo, you suck, you this and that, I'm fine with. You're a bitch. Welcome to today's language. I don't love it, but welcome to today's language. It's probably fine. Once you start getting a racial slur, your families, the wives, the kids and all that, I'm out on that. I'm out on that. I don't care how much you paid for your ticket. I don't care. My salary pays the... I don't care. I don't care. Because if they don't sell the ticket to you, it's not going to go unsold. This is my drug dealer mentality. It's not the drug dealer's fault. You go show up to the drug dealer and he doesn't have heroin. You know what the heroin addict doesn't do? Well, I guess no heroin today. They go down the street and find the next heroin dealer. That's what the league is going to do. You don't buy the ticket, they're going to find somebody else that will. It's not your salary. It's not. It's the collective, or it's not your money. It's the collective fan money that does it, not just yours, right? And so, that's a weird thing that kind of happens. Do I think the kid intentionally was screaming in his face? Yes. Do I believe the fan intentionally ran into him? Yes. I think it was like, I'm going to bump bodies with this player, and I'm going to tell him Wake Forest just kicked your ass. Now go, get on the bus and cry about it, Kyle, right? And so, I think that was intentional. Hurting his ankle intentionally, I'll stop short of that. I don't think that's what he was doing. I don't think that fan wanted to be the big story of this. I don't think the fan wants to be the catalyst of us looking at whether or not we should have fans running onto the field or not. I don't think he wanted that. I think he wanted to bump Kyle because I know who that is. I watch that guy play, and I don't like him. Yeah, by the way, dude, a lot of people are excusing this away because it happened to a Duke player. And Duke, it's just it's understood. Unless you went to Duke, you kind of hate Duke. It's kind of how it goes, right? We've seen this with a ton of their players, Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner. I mean, you go on and on and on and on. It's just kind of how that works. But this is a big story for the same reason why we allowed it in the first place. It was a television moment that has everybody talking. It's this injury that has everybody talking. And so now all of a sudden it's like, what do you do? Because if you're ESPN, if you're the network carrying the games, you love court storming. It's like balloons at a political convention. Nobody's heard a damn thing these morons said for the last 3.5 hours. But the balloons, and you get the Hillary looking up. Wow! Wow! And it just makes for good TV. And that's what court storming is. But now that this happened on television, and now the fact that people haven't stopped talking about it since Saturday when it happened, are you going to see a ban on court storming in college basketball? Yeah, you might.
Kind of funny you can listen to him on your smart speaker.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
The Stansbury Show.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
On Rock 1069.
I don't care what you say, Sublime fans, they suck. You're getting the turd sounder every time I remember to do it. Every time I remember, which isn't often enough. 8:45 this morning, let's get you into Primus. The show has Coheed and Cambria on it as well, out at Blossom August. And I'll get you in this morning. We had been talking about fans running on the court. This is in response to Wake Forest storming the court over the weekend. A Duke player got hurt. I think this is where a lot of fans are refusing to show sympathy. I think, if you get a star player from another team hurt, people are like, oh, we can't do this. These are the franchises. There's this, there's that. Can't do it. Duke player, kind of suck it. Right? It's just kind of what happens. They are the enemy in college basketball, or at least have been. And you kind of need that, I think it's dying out a little because players aren't staying with schools as long as they used to. I could be wrong about that. I could be making that too easy of an answer on why some things are happening there. But I think I think that's what you're saying there, is that it's Duke, so screw it. They kind of deserve it, Duke does, right? That's kind of how people feel about it. This came in off the text line and says, when I cheered at Toledo and we beat number 9 Pitt at Toledo, a kid died. Is that right? And another kid ended up in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. Nobody is going to care about a basketball player who got hurt last year. They're going to storm the court every time. Well, yes, until they're told you're not allowed. Or until they're told, here comes fines, here comes sanctions, here comes some reduction in your NIL money, right? I think maybe that could happen. Oh, well, I don't know if I should say that. I'm not understanding NIL as well as I should to make a statement like that. But those sound like things you could do to curtail this problem. And I think the NCAA and universities on their own are going to look to curtail this problem. It's tough. Because like I said, if you don't know what happened, Wake Forest beat Duke. And when you upset a team, the fans storm the court in college basketball. It's kind of a thing. College football, too, this kind of happens a lot. You'll see the goalposts come down and all kind of crazy stuff. And it looks like great television. And that's why we've loved it. And that's why the networks have always been like, this is kind of great, right? Pandemonium on our TV. This is amazing. This is amazing. The game's over. Most people would go, okay, game's over, click. But that extra little bit of watching that court storming. And then next thing you know, it's time to do the post-game show. And look, there's those Tostitos front and center, right? And so now they got you. It's a hook. I'm a broadcaster. I'm telling you what they're doing. It's a hook. And now next thing you're there for the next quarter hour, which is how we live. Vin Diesel ran his life by quarter mile. Ours will run by quarter hour, right? Like that's kind of how it works. And so it's going to be a weird thing now and a tough scene, because what you don't want is no running. I mean, no running, because that feels like a killjoy. It does. You're a wet blanket at that point. Sports are supposed to be fun. Yes, all of that is true, and I agree with every last point. The problem is that when a player gets hurt, it's no longer fun for that. Now, does this mean he's not going to play in that? No, it does not mean that. He'll probably be fine and be right back in the thing. But the conversation is going to be had today of let's get our arms around this before that. Let's not wait until after. Let's do it before. Because people are going to be upset one way or the other. You know this, right? Say a large portion of people are pissed and think I should be fired that day. Other people are like, dude, carry that guy out on our shoulders, man. He's our hero. Depending on what it is. And that group of people changes day in and day out. So if you stop this now, people are going to be upset that you stopped it. But if you wait just a minute too long now, and a player gets real hurt, screw the fans. I don't care about the fans. Player gets real hurt. Now all of a sudden, people are going to be real upset. And those same people who were upset that you stopped it early are going to turn around and go, well, you knew this could have happened. I mean, how many games you got to see people run on the court, Mr. ESPN? If it wasn't for your clicks and it wasn't for your goddamn ratings, you would have done it. Right. Absolutely. So, like, don't get mad when they do it, because you're just going to flame their ass when somebody gets really hurt. Now, what I'll say to the person on the text line, this was an interesting point, that they were cheering at Toledo. This kind of happened. Somebody died. Somebody else in a wheelchair. I don't know this, so I'm going to speculate a touch here. I don't know when this person was cheering. I think I know who it is, so I think I can ballpark it. Social media has exploded since you were doing that at Toledo, right? And it has changed the game. We've got 75 angles of this since Saturday, since it happened. Back in the day, you would have saw it when it happened, and then the network maybe wouldn't have shown it again unless they were going to talk about it. Back then, it would have been like, that didn't happen. And you weren't going to see the B-roll, and you weren't going to see this, and you weren't going to see that. Now it's like, it's more interesting than the game, man. Are we kicking this fan out? Are of every stadium or arena for the rest of his life? Are we? Are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? Are we going to do it? It's become more entertaining almost, hunting these people down who do these things than watching the game itself. There's blood in our mouth. We have a taste for it. We've gotten thirsty for it. We love it. And I think this will be a version of it. If you ran out on a field, make this the NBA. Anybody okay with this? Probably not. Here's another issue that did not get raised by me, but I thought it was an interesting point. More than a few people said this yesterday on X, right? That platform that was going to die. Anyway, but a lot of people said this on X yesterday. Court storming's all BS to begin with. If your team's any good, you never do it. Good teams don't have to worry about doing it because you're expected to win. So a lot of people said, screw this, oh, it's fine, it's this, it's that. It's like, no, dude, get back to your programs and demand that you not be a court-storming team, because we're supposed to win. We have the players. We have the coaches. We have the pedigree. Now, the problem with that mentality is what? We know in every level of sports, not everybody's competing for a championship. Not everybody has the same goal in mind. There is so much money to be made, whether you win the championship or not, that a lot of teams are just kind of phoning it in. You've seen this in the NFL. You've seen it in NBA. You definitely see it. I mean, they basically say now, yeah, teams are just flopping now, or just, failing on purpose now, just to try to reset and reboot. It used to be one of those hush, hush, you don't talk about it. Now it's out front and center. Absolutely front and center. Is it going to take somebody else dying? I don't know. I think maybe a Duke player being at the center of it may start the conversation. Yes, they're the ultimate enemy in college basketball. There is no denying that. But they're also a massive brand. Duke fans will watch them no matter what. And the people who hate Duke will watch them no matter what. They're the Cowboys. It's a brand. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. And it's bigger than the people who play there. They will start conversations. If something happens to a Cowboys quarterback, it's different. If something happens with the Cowboys ownership, it's different. And this feels very Cowboys-ish in college basketball. Duke is different. Kentucky is different. Kansas used to be different. There are teams that are just outside of what it is they do. They are going to create the storyline that will hover. I mean, look, it's Monday morning and people are we're talking about it. It's Monday and people are still talking about it. Normally when conversations won't die down, that's when you see change happen. I could be wrong. I'm not necessarily calling for it. I'm saying I think we will, in fact, see it. You know what else we saw over the weekend? Shane Gillis on SNL. And people have lost their minds. We'll circle back and take a look at it next on The Stansberry Show.
You're never too old for a good morning kiss. The Stansberry Show. Rock 106.9.
In about an hour, we'll sit down and talk to Scott from winningfornextyear.com, get a look at guard spring training, what's going on with the Cavaliers, court storming in college basketball, and NFL raising that salary cap. That may help with that Deshaun Watson contract. That may help. Is the salary cap a real thing? Or did we just say that it's real? That's the new conspiracy out there, is that the NFL salary cap does not exist. We'll get into that. We'll do that with Scott. All right, so I knew last week that come Monday morning, I was going to be talking about what I'm about to talk about right now. Shane Gillis was on SNL as the host. Shane Gillis, for some of you, is the best comedian working right now. Shane Gillis, for a lot of you, and I would imagine most of you, will be the best comedian you see in about 6 months from right now. He is unapologetic and normally will not apologize a whole lot for what he has said and done. Most recently, he had a little, and people were upset about him. He has also just recently signed a deal with Bud Light, a beer he always drank, and so some of his fan base is like, that's it, trans queer beer, I'm done with Shane, right? And they've like hopped off the bandwagon now because they've made rage their entire identity. And so some of those people are leaving Shane Gillis behind. I think Shane's pretty funny. I think he's the best podcast guest right now. A lot of those clips I watch, I'm like, what are we talking about? And then when I see Shane, I'm like, all right, I get it. I get it. To me, he's Bill Burr 30 years ago. Forever I kept saying, dude, Bill Burr, you guys aren't paying attention enough. This is the guy. This is the guy. And sure enough, now Bill Burr's kind of one of those guys, right? Shane kind of feels like that's where he's at. Now, he has the benefit of the internet and YouTube and all that Bill didn't have, you know, at the start of his career and all that. He probably would have popped a little faster. This is not Shane's first run-in with SNL, as he was hired to be in the writer's room at SNL. Put a pin in that, because that's the point I'm going to make when I'm done. But some of his old jokes had resurfaced, and some of the old posts he had made had resurfaced. And people had forgotten what social media was like when they rolled it out. Back when we used words, and excuse me here, but back when words like fag, gay, and retarded were used on the radio and television as much as you wanted. As much as you wanted. I know for sure, because I got yanked into a room. It was like, get ready, man. A couple of these words are underneath the microscope right now. We may have to switch here a little bit. We may have to stop using this word. They were common. Standard. And then all of a sudden overnight, it was like, let's create a few more N-words that nobody can say. It was kind of overnight. So Shane goes to SNL, then gets fired because some of the people who had worked there, and really the writers at BuzzFeed and Slate and Guardian and The Independent, all want to decide what it is you hear. And by the way, all of those places I just listed have an article out this morning about how bad he bombed. He did not bomb. It was awkward, yes, because some of the people on the stage behind him in the band were awkward over the fact that they were like, oh my God, did he not get the message? We're a propaganda machine here. Does he not know that? And they got a little tight about it. Put a pin in propaganda machine too here in a second, because we're going to talk about that too. So in his monologue, he used the word gay. He was talking about when his mom asked him, when did they stop being friends, or when they going to stop being friends, or something along those lines. He goes, you remember that when you were a kid? When your mom's your best friend? Remember when you were like your mom's gay best friend? And it's a funny joke, because every boy kind of knows, it's like, yeah, dude, that is kind of what my mom was doing there, right? That is kind of what my mom was doing. And it's kind of funny. It's not funny. He used gay as negative. Like, I don't understand. First of all, no, he didn't. He's making fun of moms and how they kind of put their sons in that space. Not making fun of gay people. You ever notice this? I talk about this all the time with the cancel people. You don't even know what the goddamn joke was. So I don't think you get to decide what people get to say. Not if you don't understand what it is they're saying. Hey, I didn't understand it. Can I please be the judge and jury of it? What an idiot. Right? How dumb are people? It's a funny joke. And I told you a couple of months ago, gay and retarded are the words that are coming back into our dialogue here pretty soon. I'm telling you. I told you, I was like, people are going to come out of this cancel culture thing, and wait till you see what happens then. It's going to be the Wild West of words. And I think Saturday was the precursor of it. I could be wrong. I've made a lot of speculations. Having said everything I just said, it feels a little weird. Everybody's on the edge of their seat waiting to say these two words again, right? Like, it does feel a little strange. The cancel culture did kind of lose itself in the soup here. Me standing on a tee box, looking at my buddy, dude, don't be gay. isn't the same thing as like mocking a gay person for being gay, dragging them behind the truck or whatever the hell happens in the South. And it's not the same thing. Making every infraction verbal murder was a mistake. And that's how you're going to end up losing this culture war, if we're going to call it that. He went on to make jokes about Down syndrome. He's got family members that have Down syndrome. And he used a stock bit out of his last special for the monologue, Welcome to Comedians. It's literally what they do. They write something funny and tell it for the next 10 years. It's what they do. And he talked about how he has family members who have Down syndrome. And it nicked me. I'm a little bit of a daywalker myself, right? And then like he kind of went into his stock thing. And people, of course, were upset. Yet his family members are fine with it. And like I've always said, as a kid who was victimized by a neighbor, if I make jokes about that and I'm okay with it, if the people who went through a similar situation and they're not okay that I make jokes about it, why do they automatically win? Why does the whiner say, no, shouldn't, no, don't wanna, shouldn't, no? Why do they automatically win? Nobody can ever answer that question. And it's because there is no answer to the question. It's just people wanting to take control over what other people are doing. That's it. That's it. I've said, I've got family members on the spectrum, and I mean severely. And if you say to one of them to their faces, what are you, retard? I'm going to bury my 9-iron in your forehead. But conversely, if I'm at the bar on Friday night and Donovan Mitchell misses a three-pointer he shouldn't have taken, and somebody behind me goes, is the man retarded? I'm not going to turn around and be like, my cousin, oh my God, like my cousin, right? Do I understand parents of children aren't going to see it the same way as I do? Sure, of course I do. There's 8 billion of us on the planet now.
Boy, it looks so sad.
Again, why is you right? Nobody can answer it. Because there is no answer. Comedy is supposed to push the envelope a little. And in that, you will enter uncomfortable territory. Richard Pryor lit himself on fire smoking crack. And then half his next special was about it. Because that's what comedians do. They take the awful, they take the uncomfortable, they take the nightmare.
It's cold again.
And they show you the light.
Yeah.
Winter's back.
Today,
Winter's
what would
back.
happen is, I don't know if making light of addiction is really the way to go. I mean, seriously, does he not know how many people have talking crack pipes? Does he not know? Oh my God. That's what people would do today. Now, part of the problem is this. Too many people calling themselves comedians right now. Too many now. That's not a comment for Shane. Shane is clearly doing what he is supposed to be doing. Clearly doing what he is supposed to be doing. I think a lot of these words are coming back. I think you're going to start to see them in the next couple of months. I think they're only going to amp up and get louder as we get closer to the election. Some of you are wondering how I made that connection. Please, are you serious? Trust me, we're going to get there in this election cycle. You know we're going to get there. For sure we are. I don't want Shane Gillis hosting Saturday Night Live. That's not what I want. I don't want a 5-minute monologue from Shane Gillis on Saturday Night Live. Where we need the Shane Gillises of the world is in the writer's room at SNL. Because that's what, dude, SNL and Rolling Stone are the same thing. They were always left-leaning. Yes. Always, always, always. Yes, yes, yes. The problem is back when they were started, that was the counterculture. Now it is the culture. And so no counterpoints are coming from Rolling Stone or SNL unless you get Woody Harrelson or unless you get Shane Gillis, which is why these are the 2 episodes in the last year and a half that people are talking about. Because you went outside of your typical line to bring somebody in who can entertain. Actually, let's look at the Woody Harrelson and Shane Gillis monologues. Let's take another look at both of those next on the Stansbury Show.
To all the teachers who said he'd never amount to anything.
That is correct.
Lucky guess. The Stansbury Show on Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the Stansbury Show, 8:45. Let's get you into Primus and Coheed in Cambria. Show's August 5th. Blossom on that. I'll have tickets for you all week. 8:45 this morning is when you get your tickets for Monday. I've been talking to little Shane Gillis, who had hosted SNL over the weekend, and people couldn't wait for this because he had been hired for SNL once upon a time, I believe, for a writer's position, and then you know how that works. Then they'll end up putting you in skits and the like. And he got fired over some... Well, it's tough, man, because like Daily Beast, Guardian, and Slate call it homophobic, and it probably wasn't, right? Like it probably wasn't. All of those outlets today are telling you he bombed on Saturday night.
He did the clothes there.
He didn't.
Saw the yellow one.
Look at the way people are talking about it online. They're celebrating the living hell out of it. Except for people who write professionally online at those articles. I don't know how many of your brethren you got to see get fired. How many of those publications you got to see close their doors before you realize we've gone around the bend here.
I said that
there's a difference between sticking up for the little guy and then saying
like the
every situation is about sticking up for the little guy when we all know it's not. Like it isn't. It's about you being clapped for. It's about you being championed by a group of your friends.
The texture of the clothes.
And that's why a lot of those places are like, time to pack it in, time to be done.
Milan clothing.
I mean,
or
what
Zara
happened to
or
Vice
Celine,
is crazy.
Or Celine, like
What that used to be, again,
When I
always a
saw it,
little
just
left-leaning,
it's really
but
nice.
aggressive, and would get in there. Here's the hard
And
story. Here's what's really
I think
happening.
she's the
Here's what
owner. She
NBC
said
isn't
it's
showing you.
just
And then they just
how much?
became
like $100,
another version of
more
it.
than $100.
My guess is
80,
because it's profitable.
$80.
Let's not get lost in the sauce.
Well,
We keep
I'm
it
not
about
surprised.
SNL
That is really
and Shane Gillis.
expensive
And then through
because
him,
I saw that clothing.
Woody Harrelson.
The clothing.
So he had
Just
made some
maybe-
jokes. He had used the word gay. He said, remember when
He
you were a
said
kid and you
it's
were
made
gay
in
because your mom
Italy,
had
but
you
I
as
saw
her
that
best
is
friend?
the
Right.
cloth is made in Turkey.
Yeah, because no woman ever's had a gay best
I mean,
friend.
the fabric.
No woman ever has made jokes about how they need to go and get a gay best friend, right? No jokes ever. I mean, never. Or no women ever have ever done that. Never. It's never happened, right? Again, people think the joke's about the word gay. It isn't. It's about the mom. That's the joke. And that's why I don't think people get to be this upset about it. I'm sorry, dude. No. The problem is this: is people say, well, when you say it, people think it's okay to say it. Well, I think it might be okay for two men to look at each other in the middle of the day and go, it's like Jim Brewer, who once said, I don't mean gay. I mean miss the kickball in gym class. That's what I mean. The ball's bigger than your body. How did you miss it? That's what he means. And that's kind of what we mean when we're saying, okay, well, I mean, if guys are going to say we're in the locker room, I guess we can't control that. But if you see it on television, people feel like it's okay to say it. You know what happens in most cases if you're using a word like that and somebody around you wishes you wouldn't? If that person actually has the balls to not be preachy about it, but just to say, you know what, man, I got a family member. I don't really love that. I'm not going to come down on you, but I'm probably not going to want to jump in these conversations. I may not even want to be it. You know what most people are going to go? Oh, God, did you know about Billy's kid? I didn't know about that. Did you? I kind of feel bad now, right? Don't you? You feel a little bad now, right? Yeah, I mean a little. Jeez, I didn't know. And then behavior gets changed.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens amongst friends.
We can pass
A
by
pickup
here.
game, you don't know the other guy. Okay, whatever. How many of you are playing pickup basketball? I'm guessing not that many. Right? And so, at the end of the day,
Why we're not going there?
there used to be this thing where if you got upset, George Carlin said this. The radio's got two buttons, right? One to turn it up, one to turn
I
it
said
off.
we're going for shortcut.
And that's what he had said about getting upset about things. Of course, because he was a joke teller and he knew people were going to get upset about things he was saying. Of course, that's his position. Which would be your position if your finances came down to what it is you were saying and having your opinion. I find it remarkable everybody's in my business now. Everyone is in my business. Everybody's in the talking for money business now. Everyone. And that, at the same time, is when we started a war on words. Isn't that interesting? I really do think it's interesting. We've never listened to people talk more, ever, than now. Ever.
I can drive home.
I mean, here I am.
Okay.
Here you are. This is what we're doing. We've never done it more. Do you know this? Audio listening is through the goddamned roof. Dude, FM ratings right
We
now
can go this
are
far
through
first
the
in the
roof. It's insane what's
pharmacy.
happening in radio ratings right now.
Just mostly
People have an
the
obsession
items
to
that we
listen
are
to
looking
opinion.
for is there.
All the more reason where it's like, dude, let them say what they want,
Okay.
because like then I know where they are. By the way, Shane Gillis said this on SNL Saturday night. Used the word gay. Had Down syndrome joke. At the number one place people tell you can't say anything.
Yeah.
And yet they did it. I think SNL may change.